Welcome back. It's another episode of The Last Word on Rugby. We will dive straight into what is happening this weekend. It's the return of the URC. The Lions, they host the Sharks, and we've been waiting for some local rugby to take the telly again after 2 weekends of Six Nations rugby. Um, Before we jump into all of that action, is apparently a lot in store here that Mike and John will help me unpack for you. But if you haven't yet, click that like button on our channel at the Clutch ZA. Share this video as we look to bring you the latest news with the Springboks and then, of course, the URC franchises and South African rugby teams. Now, it's going to be a big weekend at Ellis Park, that local derby, kickstarting the UFC for the SA teams again. And up in Durban, they are flying high with JP Peterson at the helm. 2 wins over the Stormers. They will bank on that momentum as they head to the City of Gold to topple the Lions. They, of course, lost to the Lions at the Shark Tank earlier this year. Now, Mike, you mentioned now a lot has been happening in Durban. Before we crack on to matters on the field, what's the latest that must I now say, your birds are saying, or do you have fish around the Shark Tank that gives you that the information?
Coach.
Yeah. I'm been around so long at the Shark Tank. I'm the godfather there, man. So everything it has to get run by me. No, no, seriously. So there's lots of changes there. Hey, looks one that we expected. JP Peterson has been coaching well as interim coach. He is now confirmed as head coach going forward, and I think that's well deserved. They've changed up things a bit in their coaching, assistant coaching staff. Dave Williams, the tech coach, is stepping aside. He's taking up another position at the union called general manager, overseeing quite a lot of the structures there. He's kind of doing what Neil Pell was doing. Neil Pell now looks to me like it's a relegation to very much a junior role, looking after the under 20s and under
Wow.
19s and so on. Yeah. So, I mean, at one point, he was the man in charge at the Sharks.
Yeah.
He was the
Yeah.
director. So it looks like he's gone down the ladder to the juniors. Dave Williams being replaced as an attack coach by a guy well known in Durban and in Kimberley, Scott Matty. He was actually a very accomplished coach at Griquas a couple of years ago, where they did very well under him. He's currently serving under Sean Everett at Edinburgh.
Yeah.
He's the Edinburgh attack coach. Yeah, he's highly rated. He's a Durban boy, went to Durban High School. He played, I remember writing about him quite a few years ago. He played about 40 games for the Sharks as
Yeah.
a very good little scrum half. So Scott Matty will now be the attack coach. And then an appointment that I think is quite exciting at the very top. They have a new position called Chief of Staff, which I'm not really, I'll still find out exactly what that entails, but it's...
That's at the White House.
Yeah, it's a US-owned business up there, eh?
Yes. Mazotti
And
official.
yes, exactly. Well, yeah, quite. I assume it's kind of like a CEO type role, but Rory Duncan will be in that position. So
Okay.
in the olden days, the Sharks used to poach Free State players, Cheetahs players.
Yeah,
Now
no.
they're poaching their administrators.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because Rory has, of course, has been, well, I'm not sure if he is at the Cheetahs right now, but he's coming across to be chief of staff at the Shark Tank. So a lot of stuff going on there. Um, yeah, and JP's first task is to come to Ellis Park as head coach.
Yeah.
No pressure after his appointment, and a difficult one for him because my understanding is that the Sharks will be without all of their Springboks for this game. They are kind of back to JP's Curry Cup team. That's what I'm pretty much sure is going to happen. The Springboks are off. So
Yeah,
it is
because
going
we've seen Sia Kolisi gallivanting in
to.
America at the NBA All-Star game. Um,
There you go. Yeah,
so yeah, you
yeah.
might be right there, Mike. You might be right there.
I'm pretty
Um,
certain I am. So
yeah,
John, you can take us from there. That makes it a pretty much a even Stevens game there. Springbokless Sharks, even though they've been winning up against the Lions at home.
but is
Yeah.
it Springbok list? But I think we'll probably still see a fair chunk of box with the Hendrikse brothers. I mean, they won't.
Um,
Would,
yeah,
would, would some of those guys be playing?
yeah,
I think Sia would,
yeah,
Sia, and then I think the Ox would probably
yeah,
give a break in terms of
yeah.
regular Springboks. So they might still field a decent team.
It should be a pretty good side, but they're not at full strength. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But if we
that's
go back to JP, we spoke about it last week about the Ole's at the wheel, sort of the
yeah.
interim guy doing really well,
Yeah, yeah.
then immediately being given a contract. But this doesn't feel like it's an emotional uh,
Mm-mm.
sort of let's give him a contract. He's done well because I think what JP has done well, and Vincent Koch also said it this week during the press conference, is how he brought the team together. How they playing for the
Mm,
jersey again? How they playing for each
mm,
other again? The love for the game. Maybe he's
mm.
injected some energy, so it's a good spot. But
Yeah.
obviously now there's a different kind of pressure being given that role on an interim basis where you basically have a free hit. And
Mm,
now you're the boss in charge, and now they expect the
mm,
results. Basically, they expect results now. So, and to have and going into a game without your big Springboks, that's also a massive one. But it's two big games for the Sharks. It's this one against the Lions, and then the Bulls
mm,
next week.
Mm.
Where if they win this weekend, they're back in the top eight in
mm.
terms of the URC playoffs. But that game against the Bulls, oh my word, that's gonna be a grudge game.
Yeah, and you're quite right. Speaking about that Bulls game, I think that Bulls match will be their gateway to staying properly in the top eight, or then coming back and facing all those overseas sides coming here, and I think the Sharks still have a 2 week trip overseas towards the end of the season as well, fighting then to stay in the top eight. So if they can't get wins in the next two South African games, I think the Sharks will be fighting, battling to stay and
Yeah.
get into the top eight, because and coming back to JPA, he was the guy that got the box and the players, I don't want to say underneath them, but the players that's been playing for him in the Curry Cup, he got
Mm,
them here where they were
mm,
literally finding each other on the field. I remember
mm,
that Stormers game in Cape Town, how how evident it was that everyone is fighting for one guy's fighting for
mm,
the one next to him, and that one's fighting for the guy next to him when they were
mm,
defending on their try line for a
Yeah.
lot of times. And
mm,
when someone makes a tackle, he's not the one standing up shouting, yeah. The others come to him and pick him up and tell him,
mm.
Yeah.
great shot, great work. And
Yeah.
and that has been evident over the last two games against the Stormers. But now, like John said, making that thing permanent, that permanency,
Mm,
it could flip a switch in the right direction, or
yeah.
it can go the other way, like with a Man
Mm,
United for argument's sake.
yeah.
So hopefully for the Sharks' sake, I hope they can kick on
Mm,
especially with in terms of results this coming weekend. But doing that without some of their settled players will be
Yeah.
tough.
And I just spoken to JP actually. He gave us an interview for IOL, and look, I've got a really good feeling about his way forward because like he spoke about those Curry Cup campaigns that he had, and really he was on a hiding to nothing in terms
Mm,
of results because it's now development competition. And all the Sharks URC players were removed from the Curry Cup. And he said, I just look at these guys, these raw guys, and say to them, look, if you want to be a professional rugby player, if you want to go and if you want to make it, this is what's required of you. And he told them all about the Sharks culture, about fighting for the jersey, fighting for each other, and so on. And he said, I had to be very hard on these guys because we weren't going to win games. And he said, I mean, after the first game of the Curry Cup last week, they lost, last year, they lost by 60 to the Bulls
mm,
at Loftus. And he said, what I learned so much as a coach in those two Curry Cup campaigns where I wasn't expected to win games, too many anyway, but I was expected to take a raw players and coach them into guys that could step up into the URC. And now quite a lot of those guys are with them now as they move on into their URC careers. And JP, he spoke a lot about um, when he was appointed as interim coach, and he said I had to draw back on what I learned from the coaches that I was coached by in my career, and he spoke about uh, the coaches he had, which Dick Muir, John Plumtree.
Jake,
He went to, sorry,
Jake,
he went
Jake.
Jake White, Heineke Meyer. At Sanyo Wild Knights, he had Robbie Deans, the Kiwi coach. He had Richard Cockrell at Leicester. He's well traveled, and he just says, "I've
Quite a
taken
pool, yeah.
a little bit from all of those guys, um, and that's what's given me the sort of foundation because I've learned from some of the best all over the world."
mm.
And he's got that passion, JP. So he's passionate about the Sharks. So I'm optimistic for them. I just, lying in wait now is the Lions. Yo, I mean, their last game out, they got pumped by the Bulls at Ellis
Yo,
Park.
that was
They've had
bad.
a very long time to lick their wounds. What, what are we going to see for them? So yeah, interesting game and prospect. 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon at Ellis Park.
Yeah,
Who
just
knows?
just to sort of just the last point on JP, and you spoke about the sort of different coaches he played under. But you could actually see his imprint on the team in terms of their mentality
Mm.
and
Yeah.
the way they fight. JP was a fighter on the field.
Oh yeah.
He was a scrapper, he was a fighter,
Mm.
a very street smart guy as well.
Mm,
And maybe that is what the Sharks were lacking. Where
Mm.
they at the start of the season they had a lot of injuries as well. We have to concede
Yeah.
that. But at the start of the season, and Leighton mentioned it now, you didn't see that type of fight scrap
yeah.
Yeah.
um
Mm,
mentality from them. It was just, we've given up here. But with
Mm.
that, they've also been tactically very good
Mm.
in terms of how they've brought Jaden Hendrickse in the game with his pinpoint box kicking and guys
Mm.
chasing. And also, I think JP being there is also um, he's got the best out of Jordan Hendrickse
Mm.
as well as a guy, and I would suspect that JP would have told him, look here, go and this is your team, go run this team. Because that is something we also, so Mike wrote a couple of pieces, and we also spoke about it on the pod, that the Sharks were struggling with direction in
mm.
terms of their attack, and they just looked a lot more fluid now, and they've got a bit of dog as well under JP.
Yeah. And that dog in them will be needed this weekend because like Mike said, the Lions are hurting. They have their claws out. You know, a lion, a hurting lion is a fighting lion. They will be at Ellis Park. Will want to set a record straight of catching those strays from the Bulls and being pummeled by the Bulls' forwards and then ran off the park by the back line. Um, I think they had proper time to lick their wounds. They know what's at stake. They are the one side. They're the one side. Actually chasing the Sharks to prevent them from winning the Shield again. And if the Lions can scrap for a win this weekend, they have momentum for the Stormers that will be visiting them as well. And then they can fight for the SA Shield and the top 8 spot. I mean, it's not too far-fetched to say that they are in it with a chance. Their team clicked overseas, but we don't know what happened in that Bulls game. But I don't know, Mike, what do you see them bringing to the party this Saturday? I know South African fans are hungry for local matches again.
Yeah, look, I mean, they've got quite a long run of home games now, if I'm not mistaken. I think they've got
Yeah,
in six or seven, and they really got. I mean, I was at that game at Ellis Park where they got hammered by the Bulls, and Franco Horn and Yvonne van Zyl, Van Rooyen, I always call him
the scrum half
they,
on sale. Yeah,
yeah,
Yes,
Van Rooyen.
yes.
Let's just call him Cash, then I won't get mixed up between Van Zyl and Van Rooyen. But honestly, they looked like they'd seen their family massacred in front of their eyes because they didn't see it coming. In fact, no one really saw that coming. And I remember on this on this show saying,
We
"Don't
were
be
predicting
surprised."
a draw.
yeah.
100%. Don't be surprised if it's a draw. And boy, I got it 50 points wrong. I mean,
But that's been the
so no one saw that. Go for
no,
it.
no, that's been the story of the season. I mean, they went
Yeah.
into that game off the back of that lovely result against the Sharks.
Mm,
Um, came to came to Ellis Park, and you would expect them to put up a massive fight. That's a big game for them, and they fell apart.
yeah.
So it's like a Jekyll and Hyde Lions.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so what can we expect from them? Yeah, look, much chastised Lions team. Their forwards were the biggest disappointment for me
yeah,
because their forwards on that overseas tour had actually been pretty impressive, and
they were,
especially
they
their
were.
set pieces. And then they got their backsides handed to them by the Bulls, if I can put it impolitely. So yeah, look, I just think in all departments, the Lions will. I mean, they've got to get back on the horse. That was humiliating at home. They've got to cash in on these home games of theirs. So I think they'll come out fighting. That's all I can really predict from them. I think their forwards will be much better because they were thoroughly outplayed. Um, is that, that's pretty
Yeah,
much what
Yeah,
I can expect
I,
from
I,
them. Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
think
think that
that
what's going to be interesting for me is the scrum battle now with potentially Ox not playing.
Mm,
yeah,
Vincent Koch was at the presser yesterday in full Sharks training kit, so I suspect he will probably play.
mm, mm,
Um, and he's going to be massive. But that scrum battle, because the Lions' scrum isn't as bad as people think. I mean, they're not as
mm,
good as when the Sharks go all guns blazing with Ox. Because I think Ox against the Stormers played a massive role in keeping
mm,
that scrum together. When Ox wasn't on the field in both those matches, the Sharks' scrum went backwards. And I think the Lions, that's maybe an area, if Ox is not playing, where they will potentially think we can have a go here
mm,
yeah,
at the Sharks.
yeah. And the Lions, Mike spoke about their forwards, and I feel this is where the scrum will be one department. But in terms of their carries, their tackle fight, and their defense, that is where the Lions will have to
Yeah,
be streets better than they were against the Bulls. I mean, guys like Ruan Venter, Franco Horn, whether Renzo or Jared Kane start, they must front up because that is another department where the Sharks were absolutely brilliant against the Stormers. Like those runners got over the gain line. And what was a bit baffling with the Lions was the previous week overseas, their big carriers in tough conditions. They looked so good. When the Lions came here to Cape Town, Ruan Venter and the blokes, they were just pummeling the Stormers in those opening minutes in Cape Town with carries that were they were
yeah,
out of this world, and they will need that. It was absent against the Bulls. The Bulls had their massive runners get over the gain line every time, and they just totally overshadowed the Lions' forward. So this one will be on. There's talks that Ruan Venter will move to lock. He could play there, much like the Stormers will do with PJ Dixon hopefully pretty soon, but that will add another element of versatility to Ruan Venter's game. And they can maybe have more mobile and make space for Bato Slekani, who will be burning to start a game against the Sharks. Obviously the
yep.
team he came from. So hopefully those forwards, if they don't step up, it's tickets for the Lions in front of their own fans. Speaking about Batu guys, that battle between Lions guys who went to the Sharks and then Sharks guys who play for the Lions now. We know there's another Lion soon to be a Shark in the new season. So do you think that adds a bit extra to that confrontation, Mike?
I think it probably does. I mean, you obviously we got the Chatuka brothers there who were big, who began their careers at the Lions and really flourished there.
It
Yeah, look,
will.
Edwin van der Merwe, yeah, Edwin is there. Ruan Dreyer, I'm not sure he'll be involved this week. Gianni Lombard, of course, is on his way. Jordan Hendrickse, I'm not sure if Jordan is going to be with the kind of resting. I can't see why he should, actually. I think
Yeah,
Jordan and Jaden
that's
should be
my thing
playing.
also.
Yeah,
Yeah,
look, I think possibly a little too much is made of that. You used to be with us, now you're with them. I think the professional game, they play so much rugby. There's probably not too much. I mean, maybe afterwards in the change room, there might be a bit of teasing from the winners to the losers, but yeah, and also the game moves on so quickly. I'm not sure how much intelligence, for instance, the Chatukas can give on the Lions to the Sharks' current coaching staff and vice versa. Not that there's too many Sharks gone the other way, but you know what I mean. I think the game evolves so quickly. I think it's a nice talking point, but probably not pivotal to the outcome.
Yeah. Well, guys, I am very happy that we will have local rugby back. I know we prayed for some quietness on the rugby front, but I feel it was a bit too quiet in terms of what's happening with the local sides. But for me this weekend, I've listened to Mike say now that the Sharks won't be at their best, and I feel that could potentially rob them of some valuable URC momentum. You don't just beat a team twice. That's a team that's in the top three. You don't beat them twice back-to-back performances. So they will definitely be robbed of valuable momentum playing without some of their stars. And for me, that throws the door open for the Lions to hit back. And I feel the Lions could sneak this game by, say, 5 to 7 points. John, your prediction there?
yeah. with with the Lions, you must rather keep your money in your pocket. You never know what they are going to dish up. Um, I home advantage. The Sharks without a few bucks. Yeah, you could fancy the Lions, but I think the Sharks.
Mm,
They are riding a good wave. I think a lot of people think that the break maybe uh, halted their momentum a bit, but I think the break, was two brutal games against the Stormers, and it was a lovely way to refresh again. And I suspect now with a JP permanent appointment bounce that they will beat the Lions at Ellis Park.
yeah. Yes, I've been thinking, cheapest the timing of the Sharks announcements is tempting fate for our JP. Why not wait till after these games against the Lions and the Bulls? But other side of the coin is, now I agree with John. I think it's a lot of positivity there. And yes, the Sharks are likely to be without a lot of key Springboks, but I think they now have their greater sort of squad has improved a lot more under JP, and I don't think it is as much of a train smash as it used to be when Springboks left the Sharks. Um, I think the Lions will be vastly improved, surely. But I think the Sharks might just get over the line here. Sharks by a couple.
All right, there you've heard it. We've made our predictions on what we think will happen this weekend. Now we wait for rugby to return to our screens. Yeah, guys, I'm not gonna keep you for long in the area anymore. Let's
Yeah,
let's
that was
tag
bad.
along, and we will be back next week with another episode of the Last Word on Rugby. Hopefully, we can run through the URC games that's coming up. Obviously, Lions versus the Stormers up in Joburg, and then the big one. I feel the big one of that weekend will be the Bulls and the Sharks at Loftus Versal.
Okay.
So, guys, thanks for joining again, John, Mike. It's been a lovely chat. Yeah, and if you haven't yet, click that like button, subscribe to our channel at the Clutch ZA, and we will be back next week again with the last word on rugby. Cheers.